Okay, so 6 months since my SPD diagnosis. This video is definitely going to be all over the place, so yeah, bear with me. Oh, that's the most terrible opening to a video I've done in a while. Yeah, no, so this is going to be a mess. Sorry I haven't filmed anything in a while. Oh, there's just so much stuff has been going on, so we'll do a quick update and then get into the 6 months thing. But yeah, so like first I had heaps of appointments, including my dog. He got this injury he's had before and so had to take him to the vet a couple times, and this is right after he saw his specialist, and it's just like too much. I've also been doing a whole bunch of songwriting because like I accidentally got an audition, but it's like a sort of write a song and then record it and send it in. And so yeah, I've been working on that for the past few weeks, and Patreon has seen my progress. I just posted another thing. And then also my art studio is having an open weekend in the middle of August, and so I'm sort of been starting to ramp up and like get going with that, getting set up, and going, gee, maybe I should take my art more seriously. And I mean, I don't know if that enthusiasm will last past the event, but I'm just like, trying to sort all that out. And then there's just been a bunch of like interpersonal shit, which I don't know that I'll get into that much, but like it's kind of relevant, but it's also just the whole routine. Like, people have been home all week. My little brother's been sick and he's fine now, but of course everyone gets stressed, and yeah, because he's been home and dad's been working from home, and just everyone, it's not been a good environment for me to film in. So that's my like update on stuff. And so of course I actually forgot, oh yeah, it's been 6 months since I had my diagnosis, and I'm a couple weeks late. And I guess it's been enough with like those people leaving annoying comments like, you can't be SPD because you have to fit this exact image I have in my head of it, which I've done replies to. Yeah, so maybe that distracted me a bit, but also I don't know that I intended to do like 3 monthly updates. It's just like I thought, oh, maybe I should, just for the completeness, because I am obsessive, so here we are. And I know a bunch of you started following me for this stuff, so here we are. Okay, I did make some notes to try and keep me roughly on track, but you guys know me by now, hopefully, if you've been watching some of my stuff, and hopefully more than just the SPD stuff. But okay, so I guess the main thing that's happened since my diagnosis is probably that I'm in therapy again. And I've had so many bad experiences with therapy, but this time, so I went in, my doctor found a clinic that was willing to take me, because I did send emails to a whole bunch of people, and mostly they're like, we either don't have space, because there's a real shortage of, people offering mental health services thanks to the pandemic. But also I got ones back saying, we don't have the experience to deal with this because SPD is kind of niche. And then the other one I got is, I was specifically looking for someone who knew something about schema therapy, because I've got a friend who is is studying to be a psychologist, and I think she's got a lecturer who's into that, suggested that. So yeah, the other one I got is, we don't do this kind of therapy, try this list, which is really, there's this database that I remember was really hard to search through. So yeah, I got knocked back by a lot of places, but my GP eventually found a clinic, and at first they did say they had no spaces, but their website said they did, and I pointed that out, and I guess maybe that's how I weaseled my way into therapy. And it was actually, like, even just from the very start, very different. I don't know if I've talked about this before, so let's put it all in the 6 month update, which is probably going to end up being like an hour-long video, but I guess, I haven't filmed in a couple weeks, so. Yeah, so going to this clinic, so something that has never really happened for me before with therapy is like really detailed intake forms. So like, the usual sort of quizzes to do with mood, but they also had like, you can give your whole history kind of basically. And of course, me being me, I wrote a lot. And you can say like what hasn't worked in the past, and so I wrote all the things that past psychologists really messed up with me, and then problems with psychiatry, blah 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 blah. And yeah, I've never had the chance to fill out that much detail about myself. And of course, mentioning schizoid personality disorder, which my doctor also mentioned, I think that amount of detail helped them match me because they've got, like, it's a clinic. And so I think the director or whoever, looks at that intake and is like, okay, we're going to match you with this person because they, know stuff. And so I got matched with a lady who does have the schema therapy experience along with some other things, and also the trauma focused therapy, because I do have the glass child trauma thing. For those of you who haven't followed, glass child trauma, so I am the sibling of a disabled kid, and it's like the adults in your life look right through you and only see the special needs kid. And then of course, like glass, like you look like you're strong but you're kind of not. That's the idea. And like, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but the glass child thing, okay, I'll get to that because that's the next point. But so, yeah, I mentioned that in the intake forms, and so this lady is like into all the trauma, childhood, whatever. Okay, so what I'm saying is I'm going into this therapy with someone who, for the first time in my life, knows that I have schizoid personality disorder and can be prepared for whatever that means, and sort of understands that the usual depression approaches are not going to work with me, and, things need to be done a little bit differently. So, cool. Then when I met her, I was a little bit worried after writing so much that I might get rejected just because, like, I sounded like too much trouble, but no. And then when I went in, like, she was actually really happy that I'd written in so much detail because she likes detail, and I'm like, I like detail too! So we're already off to a good start there, because I've never had that experience with anyone in the mental health system. Yeah, I mean, it was a while ago, and I think I might have mentioned in another video, but the first session's always a little bit slow. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted because, oh no, just checking my settings. Sorry, I'll try and stay focused. Life has been too much. But anyway, so, what she said is, she's like, you can email me, and now my last psychologist also said you can email me, but I didn't really feel convinced, whereas this lady, because she's already into detail, it's always dangerous to say I can email you about stuff, because I can go on and on and on and on. My Patreon guys know how I can write for ages as well. I don't even know if everyone reads it all. I'm pretty sure everyone doesn't. But yeah, so like I asked like what kinds of things, and she's like, anything. And so like I did actually write a huge thing to her after that first session, and she read it and was like, someone who's actually reading my stuff when I'm not in session in their own time, like instead of just taking my money while I'm in session and then not thinking about me again, like she's actually putting in the effort, and I can see the effort. And then she's like also since then got me to document my moods like every day. And sometimes she hasn't been able to keep up with it, but like good effort in managing to following all the crap that I write. And because I've stopped Facebooking so much, a lot of it's going to my psychologist instead, and anyone who's ever been friends with me on Facebook will know I can write a lot there as well. So yeah, no, just like that amount of stuff already makes it feel like this therapist, this psychologist is better than anyone I've seen. Just like, that part of my quirks, the obsessiveness, and being able to read that and also doing it in her own time, like actually making me feel like she gives a shit instead of this just being like a job for money. Yeah, okay, so, but is it helping? Well, what we're doing at the moment, because schizoid personality disorder doesn't really have, like, an approach, like, there's nothing that's really proven to work. Obviously, everyone's going to be different, but in terms of the research, no one really knows how to treat it. So the way that we're going about things at the moment is sort of like trying different approaches and going through different things. And as we go through different things, unlike other psychologists, she's actually explaining to me like what the theory is and what we're trying to do. So the first time I mean, the first psychologist I saw didn't really explain anything. I know the second psychologist, though, was doing CBT with me. Um, but apart from giving me a worksheet on like those cognitive distortions, apart from giving me a worksheet, I didn't really know, like, I was talking to her, but I wasn't really sure what part of that was CBT. Like, what are you even trying to do? Kind of. Yeah. Whereas with this therapist, she's like, okay, here's, you know, a refresher on CBT, and here's these things, and are these things that we can use? Maybe, maybe not, because like I have a different way of thinking, and some of the dissociation things as well. That there's things we're trying to work out what might work. So we've looked at CBT, DBT, ACT, schema therapy, and schema therapy I don't think was the right approach, because like I would read the things. I even did the little test. Oh, I can't be. We can go through that some other time if you're interested. But yeah, going through the like different schemas, the heading would sound interesting, but then I'd read what it was meant to be about and just be like, I don't understand where that came from, and like the fact that people think that is just odd to me. So yeah, schema therapy. I think we've moved more back to sort of the ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, because we're looking at values, and I'm pretty sure values is a big deal in that, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't even read the worksheet on values yet. But yeah, so I think, did I mention somewhere values? Yeah, no, later on I mentioned values in these points. So I'm just going to try and stick to my points before. So anyway, that's sort of where we're up to. We're trying different approaches. I've now had 7 sessions, and for those of you who know Australia's system, you go see your GP, you get 6 sessions, and then you have to go back to your GP and you get 4 sessions. And then I think thanks to the pandemic, I can get an extra 10 sessions. So I'm like, if it wasn't the pandemic, I would already be almost at the end of my government funded or government subsidized, because they don't fund the whole session, but I would be almost be at the end of my subsidized sessions, and I'm still like not really sure if we've made progress. We also just had like a big, like she was away for 3 weeks, so there's been a big gap there. But in those first 6 sessions, I definitely didn't feel like much was happening. Like, I understand the approach we're taking or what we're trying to do, but I was a bit like, I'm not sure. It's gonna take a long time for her to really like understand where I'm at. The last session, which was, what day is it today? Is it Friday? I think it's Friday. Oh my god, it is. Wow, time is moving so slowly for me. So I saw her yesterday, and I've had a thought, which I will get to, about maybe we're about to make progress. We'll see. Okay, moving on. So that's like the therapy thing. This therapist is definitely better than anyone I've ever seen. Yeah, like, she's actually doing what you would hope a psychologist would do. I can't believe I settled for less in the past. Okay, and then we're trying a whole bunch of different approaches, basically just throwing everything at my issues and seeing what sticks. I should clarify that depression is my problem. Like, yes, the SPD is the background to that, but what I really want to fix is the depression and just feeling like crap in my life and stuck and all this kind of stuff. We're not trying to treat the SPD itself, we're trying to treat, I guess, the effect of it. So that's some of you, because I know some people are like, I have SPD and I don't want to change. Good for you. You do you. If you are fine with your life, that's great. But I have depression comorbid with SPD, which means my life sucks. So, yeah. She's not trying to change my nature. Like, I did say something one session, and I know I was going to move on, but I did say something one session, like, I know I should be more social or something. And she's like, well, hang on. If that's not your nature, you don't want to push things too hard. Like, that's not the right approach. We've got to work within what your nature is. Otherwise, you're just going to, like, you're not going to feel good. So she's actually pushed back. Like, I've had some of those, I should do this or that. And she's actually pushed back. She's like, no, you don't have to do these things you don't want to do. So do you know what I mean? Like, she's not trying to turn me into someone who doesn't have SPD. She's trying to just work within my limits, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's the depression, the just feeling like life is crap. The whole SPD thing, if I was just floating through life, not stressed about stuff, that would be fine. But I'm not. I'm unhappy and dissatisfied. And I know I can seem cheerful, but I'm very good at hiding what I really feel, unless I'm really bad or like really tired. If I get really tired, I can't hide what's going on. Okay. Yeah, so this therapist is better. We're trying a bunch of different approaches, targeting the depression in the context of SPD. It's slow going. I've had 7 sessions so far. We've just come back from a big gap. Okay, that's the therapy stuff. Now, moving on to the glass child trauma. So I've been having, it's been a rough week or so. I've just been having like more and more memories of stuff surrounding like my youngest brother. He has got disabilities, and yeah, so I think previously I mentioned, oh, that's probably what gave me this, is like, it happened when I was really young, and I was sort of at that age where trauma is going to really mess you up, but I'm starting to realize that a lot of reinforcement happened over my life, and yeah, it sucks, and it's kind of painful to remember a lot of this stuff, because like I'm just digging up those emotions I used to have, and that I'd like buried, and yeah, so it's been rough, and it's also happened to coincide with issues at home. If you remember, I think maybe it was around 3 months ago, I had that sort of drama, and that brought up some of the, I think that might have been the thing that got me really thinking about trauma. But yeah, so there's been more sort of interpersonal drama at home, and that's set off another round of like, oh wait, here's a whole bunch of other things. So it's not just that I had well, I still have a disabled brother that I'm living with. It's also like, there's a lot of stuff about how my parents handled it and how people around me handled it. The expectations on me is like I was a high achiever in school. I'm also the oldest child. So those two things, you get a lot of responsibility, even though you're like this tiny kid. And because I was good academically, people just assumed I was fine. Like, if my marks dropped, they were still higher than the other kids, so why do I need help? Contrast that to my other brother, who's not disabled. He struggled academically and used to play up in class, and so he actually got sent to the counsellor. I never got sent to the counsellor. No one realised there was anything wrong with me. Yeah, and so he... like, that was a long time ago. I think, I don't even know what it was about. But yeah, he also had, like, extra support with sport. I didn't have the sporting community. I wasn't into that. And also my parents are into sports, so they can connect with that. Whereas the things that I'm interested in, they got no clue. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of this I should really be saying. But then again, I've probably bored anyone who would cause me trouble over this. Yeah, you can tell, like, the trauma stuff is enough that I'm like, should I even be saying this stuff? Because I have gotten in trouble for things I've said on YouTube before, like, way back. But hey, I think only my wise godmother would be watching, if she's gotten this far. So, hello, if you are here. But she actually knows how bad I've been lately. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, he also used to go on holidays with, like, one of his friends' families. They would actually take him on holidays overseas. None of us went. It was just their family plus him. So, like, he basically had a second family who could give him the things that he might have been missing here, whereas I didn't. It was just, like, maybe grandparents and relatives occasionally, but not really. Yeah, and then, maybe it's the school that I went to, or maybe it's just, like, the girls that lived around here, but the friends that I had... yeah, it didn't work out in that same way, and, I guess female relationships can be different to the boys. Yeah, anyway, and then there's just, like, things to do with the way my parents handle emotions, which didn't really work well with me, blah, 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 blah. So, like, I'm remembering all these extra things, apart from just the fact of having a disabled brother. There's, like, all these extra things, and, yeah, there's other stuff that I'm not going to talk about because I don't need to dig that hole just in case. So I've already had a rant to a couple people online, and then also my godmother, who has, like, been super supportive, and, like, I've needed that. So let's try not to get emotional. One thing I've been thinking is, like, was I better off not being aware of the trauma? Because I wasn't, like, I've had some serious breakdowns since realizing that, yes, I had childhood trauma. Because, like, I have to suddenly remember all this stuff and realize all this stuff. Like, people used to say, oh, it must be so hard having a disabled brother. And I used to be like, oh, I've never known anything different. It's just normal to me. It's fine. And now I realize it's not fine. And I sort of had this delusion that I had this great childhood. I mean, my parents had enough money to support us. I went to a private school, so, they had enough money for that. I live in a safe area. I've got a good extended family. There's none of the fights and, divorce and so on. The sort of Catholic thing, I guess. But, like, actually the culture, like, now that I've been out in the world and I've seen how other people do stuff, and, like, people who are surprised that we eat dinner together as a family, like, there's a lot of, socioeconomic stuff that should have indicated a good life, and, intelligent enough, academically gifted. I, for a long time, thought, no, I've had a good childhood, but now I'm like, actually, on the emotional side of things, it's no wonder I'm screwed up. So, yeah. But for most of my life, I've just gone through life thinking, no, everything's fine. And yes, I've had the depression, but now I'm having these, like, big breakdowns. Maybe it's going to happen every 3 months, I don't even know. But, since realizing I do have that sort of childhood trauma, and then it just sends me in thinking, and then I remember another thing, and then I remember, like, this time that this thing happened, and, my parents did whatever, and, and I sort of wonder, like, is this worth it? And I asked my psychologist yesterday, I was like, what is the point of all this? Like, okay, now I know why I'm like this, but is there any value to remembering this stuff? Like, where is this going? Like, she hasn't, to be fair, she hasn't taken me through the trauma. This is just stuff that I'm realizing and remembering on my own, okay? But yeah, I asked her, like, what's the whole processing trauma thing about? I don't even know if I'm, like, am I doing this right? And she sort of said something like, for a lot of, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, this stuff builds up and eventually, like, the brain just has to process it. I got a bit distracted, though, because she made a couple of death growl sounds, and then my brain is like, oh my god, I hope she does it again, and she did it again, and then I'm like, I want to tell her that that's like a death growl, but I was trying to listen to what she was saying, but my brain is like, death growls, so she's talking, and I'm still going, death growls, try to look like you're listening, but death growls, and so I'm not really sure what she said after that. My memory of, like, what she said before has also, like, gotten a bit screwed up because all my brain wants to remember is death growls. But I think she was saying something like, if you don't process it, it's like your brain builds stuff up and then it goes blah, and I'm like, death growls. Anyway, so, I mean, maybe I was always going to have this meltdown at some point. It's impossible for me to know. I can't go back, though, because now, the genie's out of the bottle. I'm dealing with childhood trauma stuff, so I can't put it back in. It's just, this is where I'm at. Okay. The other thing, though, is I remember what I was like before the SPD diagnosis. Okay, because why I mentioned that, because, like, was I better off not being aware of the trauma? Okay, what made me think of the trauma? I think the schizoid personality disorder diagnosis is what led me here, because I don't have, as far as I know, any schizophrenia in the family, in my genetics, so the trauma must be the thing, and then I'm like, have I had trauma? And then things happen, and I'm like, oh shit, I do have trauma. Okay, so that all comes back to the schizoid personality disorder diagnosis that led me here. Okay, but before I had the diagnosis, and I guess I'm asking, like, was this diagnosis worth it? Like, was the trauma, learning about the trauma, was that worth it? And before that, was the schizoid personality disorder thing worth it? And I know that beforehand I was really quite preoccupied with, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why is nothing working for me? Why does life suck? And, do I have autism? And do I have something else? Do I get to make my own disorder? Which apparently no, but I don't know. There's chance yet if the schizoid people don't like me, the schizoid purists, if they don't like me, maybe I can have my own disorder and then, you know, add it to my cult, my Patreon cult. We'll be like, guys, I've got my own disorder. Anyway, you'll notice I can't click. Oh, that's good. No. Nah, I can't. Yeah, I'm not good at, I've never figured that out, and I don't like the way it feels on my fingers. Anyway, getting distracted. Oh my god, we're almost at a half an hour already. Okay, so yeah, well, yes, I'm stressing about trauma now, but before that I was stressing about what's wrong with me, what's my diagnosis. So at least I fixed one problem. Now I've got this trauma problem, and how am I gonna fix that? I don't know. So yeah, it's like I've moved from one angst to another. Anyway, okay, moving on. Thinking about trauma and what, if anything, to do about it. Okay, yeah, it has got me thinking about, like, what do I do? Because, like, if my childhood trauma, a lot of it ties back to, I guess, an emotional neglect. And so, and like, you know, interpersonal needs not being met as a kid. Now, subjectively, I'm resistant to changing that because I've reached a point where I don't really want to be close to people. I don't really want to be super social. I can handle like one at a time. But, you know, when there's too many people or in groups, I'm going to struggle. And I also just, I can't be interested about other people. Like, it's really hard for me to find anyone interesting. And even if they're doing something that I find interesting, quite often they're not the kinds of people that I like. Like, yeah, they've achieved stuff, but other things about them, no thank you. Anyway, so subjectively I'm like resistant to changing anything on the basis of the trauma, but objectively looking at evidence, particularly with social relationships, I'm sort of like, maybe I do need to try, like, the schizoid stuff is a defense mechanism against being hurt in those sort of social relationships and like the emotional neglect, whatever. And I mean, I'm sure the schizoid personality disorder feeds into my depression in some way, and I'm probably like heaps in denial because that is the defense mechanism. And like, you know, the evidence about, you know, being social. We are a social species. We evolved to be social because that helped us survive. And if you're like alone outside the tribe, you're not going to last long in most cases. So, you know, the evolution is we're a social species. I've mentioned this before. And then the evidence, like, you know, people do have more meaningful lives if other people are involved, or I don't know. I sort of wonder, like, you know, now that I know what caused my SPD, the trauma caused my SPD, the trauma was caused by this sort of like problems with emotional neglect and social relationships, is the way to fix the trauma to find a way to be more social? And I'm already like cringing. I just wonder. And so like you know, I think the fact that I reached out to some friends to talk about the recent meltdown, and particularly my godmother, because I haven't really reached out to family, apart from my brother, the not disabled brother, although that's a fairly recent development too, so maybe I'm trying it more. But yeah, the fact that I reached out to someone outside this house to talk about it, and to my godmother, I think that was a big step for me. And like the reason I even think, like, my psychology student friend, she pointed out, like, that's a big step for me. So I'm like, yeah, I guess it is a big step. So, I don't know. I don't think I'll, like, stop being schizoid, but maybe if I can find, like, some kind of in-between, I might be able to get just enough of the social stuff that it might help with the depression. Because, like, you can't really escape people, right? And I'm now trying to get more serious about my creative life, and to do that, like, I need people. I need people's help, and I need people to be interested in what I'm doing, and some sort of, like, yeah, is the denial helping me? Probably not, logically, even if I'm, like, you know, subjectively. I don't know if I'm making sense, like, and, I mean, my interest in change, right? I think I'm I don't know that everyone can do this, but I find I'm able to separate what I subjectively think and feel versus the objective, like, bigger picture kind of thing. And so I have this conflict between, like, that stuff. And I can compartmentalize a lot of different things. Like I've mentioned before, with politics, like I can see different sides of the arguments, and it makes it hard for me to figure out what my opinion is. And yeah, what have I written? Something like I have a lack of attachment to my sense of self. I guess the dissociation I've mentioned before, because I have been able to enter like different states of mind. So dissociation in terms of the sense of self, not just the derealization, depersonalization, and detachment from emotions. I mean like the I don't even know who I am kind of dissociation thing. I think my brain just like takes bits and pieces. I mentioned it in a live stream maybe, but I'll make a video at some point. I've got it on my list about the 3 ways my sense of self is messed up. And I think like that is another way that my brain just like, yeah, here's these different mind states or ways of thinking. Anyway, okay. But yeah, so, and then also like being able to see how I got this way. I think that is what makes me think about like, can I change? Do I want to change? Should I change? I know I need to change something about my life. I don't see that so much as changing me, but like if I'm changing my life, I kind of am changing me, and I'm playing all these mental games with myself, I think, because maybe I don't want to admit that I need to change something, or maybe it's my approach that I'm changing. I don't know. I'm getting really like stuck in a loop here, so I'll move on. But yeah, maybe that goes back to the schizoids out there who are like, oh, I don't want to change, and like, that's cool. You don't need to change just because I'm working on stuff. Like, that's me. It's also like, obviously I'm not on the severe end of schizoid, okay? I think we've all figured that out. I've worked up to the covert presentation. Now I'm sort of thinking, okay, how can I just get, like, I'm not content to just stay in the way that I have been, like, in my own little world. Like, I fell out of fiction a while ago because it made me feel worse about the real world I'm stuck in, and so I am trying to find a way to live in the real world and get out there a little bit more, but without tiring myself out too much. I don't know if I'm making sense. Okay, let's just move on. Okay, so some positive things. What does this have to do with schizoid? I don't remember, but okay, I think, in my notes to my psychologist, I think I wrote something about this positive things. So, one of the things that maybe gave me a bit of that, like, younger trauma, and so my nose, my hay fever, like, really flared up for a few days there as well, and I think I need to get some more of the hardcore spray to fix it. I know I'm easily distracted. Okay, positive stuff. So, being the high achiever type and in a sort of conservative, well-off, socioeconomic blah blah, there's a big expectation on me to go out and get like, a proper job and a high-paying job and be all that kind of successful. I mean, a lot of my family, my Aussie family, they do have pretty successful lives. It's just sort of, sorry, that's just sort of like how the family is, a lot of high achievers, and, damn, this nose really is annoying me, so there's like that sort of pressure to follow that kind of pattern, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. And then with academic stuff, like even my school, when I was choosing my HSC subjects, or, the year 11 and 12 subjects, they were trying to steer me away from some of the creative stuff because there was this assumption that I would do the highest level of mathematics, which I ended up doing. I still managed to get one sort of creative subject in, but yeah, there's all this kind of expectation. But one of the things, when you're going for, like, good jobs and proper jobs, you need to do all this, like, background stuff, where, like, you'll do your work experience and you'll keep a very, like, I guess, like, in today's world, you wouldn't have, like, anything sus on social media. You would have your reputation looking good. You would have your resume, having a clear progression and not having any weird gaps that indicate there's something wrong with you. You know, you'd be well behaved and all that kind of stuff. And like, you know, I used to be in my little Catholic school uniform with my little hat. Oh dear, all that stuff, right? But so the thing is, because I've messed up my life so much, I don't really think I would ever be able to get back on that track that I used to be on, that I was expected to follow. And so, and then, you know, now I've got this diagnosis of schizoid personality disorder, which basically says, fuck you to the world. Like, I am not like you, I don't fit in, I don't give a shit about all this regular stuff that I was expected to do, right? And so I think that has helped me, think more about, like, what did I want to do? Like, I wanted to be an artist when I was really young, but I still remember being told, oh, artists only get rich and famous when they're dead, which implies that you want to be rich and famous. And, you know, so like I've constantly bounced back towards creativity, and then I'll go and do something else because I feel like I can't do that. I have to be on this track that I was told I had to be in. But now I've screwed up my life so much that I'll never get back onto that super successful track. You know, I couldn't even go back to uni at this point. I mean, I probably could because the Australian system is okay, but I have a huge government debt that I will never pay back. And I'm so glad I live in Australia and not America, where that's not going to hurt me in any way. Yeah, because I don't have to pay it back unless I earn a certain amount, which is just never going to happen if we're being real. Yeah. Anyway, so because I've screwed up my life so much now, I can actually think, well, I can't do anything else. I guess I'll have to be an artist. So yeah, okay, I might lose motivation, but right now I am sort of trying to get more committed to things like my YouTube channel. I recently did, where did I write about it? Oh, this is where I wrote about it. Yeah, I recently sat through some YouTube classes. They invited me to these YouTube classes, and, well, they invited me to the one about money, but they said you can sign up to the others. So I watched one about shorts, which I'm like, I don't know that I want to do shorts in any big way. Like, just for, like, short things that don't matter, okay? But that I still want to show people on my YouTube. I want to document for myself on my YouTube, whatever. I'll do them as shorts, but like they were really pushing it as a thing that you should do a lot. And I just don't know that that's me. Look at this. We're at 37 minutes and I'm still going. So like shorts, are you kidding? Unless someone can help me find like clips of my videos to turn into shorts and just pollute the internet with, because that's fun too, polluting the internet. YouTube can't really stop me unless I'm doing something really bad, which I'm unlikely to. Okay. Anyway, and then there was one about live streaming, and so I do feel guilty that I haven't done a lot of live streaming, and I never tell people when I'm going to live stream. But yeah, the one they invited me to specifically was monetization, which, yeah, I really, like, now that I qualify for merch, I'm like, I should really just at least slap my main, like, face logo on a shirt or something, because I want that on a shirt. And then I might as well just put it in the shop, and then everyone who wants a shirt can have a shirt. And then we can have our shirt club, and all be part of the cult. Anyway, so, yeah, I sat through these classes. The live streaming one was really bad. The shorts one was okay, especially when we had, like, a group to, like, chat in with other people from Australia. But the monetization one actually had some interesting ideas. But yeah, no, the merch thing is the one that I think I want to do the most. I don't know about memberships, because you can't really make it like a cult in the same way. But I want my shirt, damn it. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I'm getting distracted again. Yeah, more committed to YouTube. I want to get better. I want to do more YouTube stuff, because I think this is like a sort of a therapy for me. Helps me, you know, not lose practice with talking, even if I'm talking to a camera and I have no idea who's going to watch me. But yeah, practice with that, and just like, I don't know, YouTube was so important to me back when, and I think it's just something that I feel I need to do, especially because I'm not on Facebook anymore. Like, where am I going to complain to? It's going to be YouTube now. But also, yeah, art, creative stuff, because I've got the studio now, I'm actually finally, I post a lot about this on Patreon. I show, like, you know, every week what I've been doing, and I'm actually starting to find my own style, and now I actually feel like maybe it is possible for me to do something with my art in the real world. yeah, and then, especially because I've screwed up my life so much, like, why not? I'm already doing the art. I might as well, like, go all out and be an artist. I already have the, like, tortured soul thing. And then if I can turn it into some kind of self-employment, just as, like, a small thing, like some pocket money, to just, keep Centrelink off my back, if I can just make enough money for that, and then I could really focus on just being creative and not have that much stress. That would be really good. But yeah, because I screwed up my life in the conventional sense, now I can go for the stuff that I actually wanted to do in the first place, which involves me trying to work out what those things were, because I'm still a little bit disconnected, even though I can talk about it with passion. In truth, when I turn off the camera, I think I know that I want to do these things, but the feeling is disconnected. I know that's going to be hard to understand given the way that I'm presenting, but this is the off-screen reality of my experiences. I'm not as excited as I'm pretending to be, and I'm not even like doing this on purpose. This is just how I talk to the camera. It's how I don't know. I'm in YouTube mode. I can't, like, when I'm off camera, if I'm trying to explain to someone YouTube mode, I can't pretend to be in YouTube mode. I have to actually be doing the YouTube, which means no one can be around. So yeah, it's a weird thing about the way my brain works. But yeah, I'm sort of like trying to think, okay, I guess I'm trying to reconnect with some of that creative stuff, and then trying to commit to it more, and then also accepting that I can make money off it, because I think also, moving on, so the guilt and values, we're coming back to the values thing I mentioned with the therapy, and I know it's taken us so long to get here, but yeah, so when we were talking about values in therapy, I think I was in a bit of a more subdued than usual kind of mood, because just things have been so hard and I was having trouble sleeping for a few days. And when she was asking me, like, what are your values, I found it really hard to talk about, like, like, my brain blanked, and I'm like, oh, I guess, does this count as a value? Does this count as a value? And then she's showing me a sheet of, like, different areas of life that you might have values in, and I'm like, okay, out of all those, well, the first bunch are all relationships, so we can scrap that. And then, like, there was, like, the romantic stuff, the family stuff, the friendship stuff, and I think there was one more, but I don't remember. Maybe it was the being a parent. And it's funny, like, she's like, yeah, the parent thing won't count for you. And I'm like, what about my dog? Because, yeah, like, I think Mum thought I was a bit crazy to take him to the vet. But I got his problem sorted, like, I'm paying attention to my dog. My dog is my stand-in baby, I guess, because somewhere in here there must be some kind of maternal instinct, and it goes all to my dog. Animals are easier for me than humans. I don't know. I can connect with an animal. Connecting with a human is... And apparently a lot of schizoids are like that, and I just wonder what it is. Is it because an animal maybe isn't going to have all the issues that humans have that you have to navigate? I don't know what it is, but yeah, if we're thinking parental, it's... and I don't know, does the dog sort of stand in for my social relationships thing? Can that be it? But no, I live in the human world. I have to occasionally, make connections with other humans. Okay, fine. So maybe, I don't know, the dog parent thing, like, it's similar, right? Anyway, so the values, we were talking about stuff. I was finding it hard to think of stuff. She's given me some worksheets, which I haven't read yet. I will get to that. But when I left the session, that's when I started thinking about stuff, because we talked about the creativity, and that's been a theme in, like, the little diaries I've been writing for her. And what was the other one? Oh, the other one was physical fitness. Let's ignore that one. That's boring. It's something I know I should do, but it was just the next closest thing I could think. But I think it was the sort of self-improvement, self-development, personal growth, education kind of thing, and then sort of tying into career and sort of tying into something else. Oh, I don't know where I put my sheet. Oh, it's too dark. I can't find it. Anyway, we were talking about the whole creative thing and, like, this recent push that I've got trying to do more with my creativity, especially YouTube and art. And then also the music, because I've been doing the songwriting. And sort of, like, if this is a value, something I value, you know, the fact that I'm doing it, is that a sign that I'm living by my values? And I'm like, yeah, probably. And it's probably better than, like, you know, one thing that I get annoyed at myself for doing is going into zombie mode and just watching endless YouTube videos, which I realize you are doing right now, dear viewer, whoever you are. But yeah, especially if you got to this point. Hopefully you're playing this in double speed, but if you're watching this in single speed, well done. If you're watching this in half speed, there's something wrong with you, but thank you for the extra watch time. Anyway, so living by my values, watching endless YouTube videos, probably not living by my values, doing all the creative stuff, probably living by my values. And so we talked about that. And then as I'm walking out, I was just thinking about it more, and like I'm constantly being drawn back to creativity. So yes, that must be something I value. I don't know if I'm using the word value right, but that must be something that is meaningful to me if I keep coming back to it. Even if I feel disconnected from it, I keep coming back to it for some reason. So yeah, and then now I'm making this push to take it all more seriously. You know, I've got the art studio, we've got the open weekend coming up, and I'm actually starting to take it seriously. And then I've been thinking about, should I get one of those Square devices in case someone wants to buy something from me and I need to do credit card payments. The studio's got one though, one of the ladies is going to bring one, so I don't need to worry about that at this stage. But I did look up Square, and then I'm like, can I run a market stall? Because I, you know, talked to one of the ladies. I think that was yesterday as well. Wow, so much happened yesterday. Oh, time's just really slow. It feels like, yeah, everything feels like ages ago. Anyway, but yeah, no, I'm making this push, and like, you know, can I, you know, make some merch on YouTube, and, you know, just like, and I sort of realized, like, why didn't I do this before? And I think a lot of it is to do with the guilt. Like guilt that I would pursue such a thing because I was raised to think that I shouldn't do this, that I should follow that path of like being successful and getting a real job and blah blah blah, following this path that just doesn't work for me. And then, you know, I would do creative stuff, but then I'd still feel like, oh, I need to make money in the conventional sense, and I need to make lots of money. I can't just get by on pocket change and Centrelink. And, you know, all this guilt that I'm fluffing around and, you know, not being serious, and I don't know, like art is some kind of game, or, you know, whatever. I don't know. Self-indulgent maybe. I haven't, it's not a fully formed thought yet. But I was just thinking about the guilt, and that there's something, that all those things that have held me back from going for this creative stuff. I mean, some of it is to do with a lack of energy, because I do keep getting depressed and it's hard to concentrate on some of these things, and, you know, if it's not going well, and especially because it's taken me so long to figure out what even is my art style, particularly with painting. That's what I've been finding at the moment. Yeah, and then, I don't know, taking the break off YouTube was not good for me, I think. Just all this life stuff. Like, there's a lot of things that got in the way. You know, like my ex was the reason I stopped YouTubing so much originally, which that was a big mistake. Anyway, yeah, so thinking about this guilt stuff, I'm like, wow, I have held back. And so I'm wondering if, you know, once I read all this values stuff, and I've made the note about guilt to my psychologist, so she'll see that, and, you know, maybe therapy will help me with that. Like stay focused on the goal and just be like, yes, this is something I can do. It's something I'm allowed to do, and it's something that I can potentially make work, you know, because there are people who enjoy what I do. You know, I've got people following me on Patreon, like, wow, that's amazing. Like, you know, people interested in the things that I'm doing. It's not completely pointless, you know. And here's coming back to the social part, is like, you know, if no one sees what I do, did I even do it, kind of idea. Yeah, I don't know, like, there's some stuff that I probably will never show anyone, but with other things, it's sort of like, if I don't show it to people, what was the point? Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting stuff in my head, and it's hard for me to untangle what I actually think. But yeah, no, I'm just sort of thinking, like, with the guilt and the values, will therapy maybe this is where therapy can help me, is just reassure me that, yes, this is a thing I can do, clarify what it is, turn these into goals. Like, yeah, I don't know. I do worry a bit that my motivation will drop, because like at the moment we've got the open weekend coming up for my studio, and so I have a deadline, and I work best when I have external deadlines. Once that event passes, will I be able to keep up the momentum? I'm not sure. So cross fingers I'll be able to do it this time, because like I understand more about myself, I understand the SPD, I understand where it's come from now, and so maybe all these things are gradually building up, and then if my psychologist can help me with the values thing and just be like, this is what I do value and I should go for it, and I should stop feeling like I have to do, like I should stop feeling like I have to get better and live a normal life. Like maybe instead of doing that, I work within my limits. And that's actually something she wrote on the page for me, because it didn't say it, but it was like, here are the different things you can value, but here are your limitations. She wrote down, the limitations of like time and the stuff to do with the situation, like time, money, and there were a couple of other things. Yeah, like maybe, like it's about, instead of trying to recover and become a proper healthy person, it's like, how do I live to my values within the constraints of what I'm stuck with? I don't know. See, these aren't fully formed thoughts, and that's why I knew this was going to be a mess of a vlog. Okay. I'll move on. I think those are the main things to do with SPD anyway. With psychology, we still haven't really explained my dissociation, particularly like the sense of self stuff. Destroyer stuff, for those of you who know and are interested in that. We haven't really talked about that. Like I did send her an email about, quite early on, about the problems with my sense of self, the 3 different ways that I'm screwed up, and then that issue in particular. But we haven't really explored it. Like she asked me a while back, how much do you want to look at this? And I said, I don't know, like is it relevant? Or is this just like a quirk? I'm mainly interested in working on the depression and just like improving my life so that I don't hate it anymore. But yeah, so I don't know, that might come up later, but there's so much more to go through besides that, and it also hasn't been much of an issue in the past month or maybe longer. So yeah, there hasn't really been much reason to bring it up in therapy again. I also haven't been intentionally prodding the bear, because I've been watching Digimon. And Digimon, like, it's taking me a long time because I keep forgetting to watch it. Like, I keep running out of time. But, it's so, like, I've been waiting for the 2nd season, but actually the 1st season is so much better than I expected. Like, for a kid's show, wow. There's so much in it, and, like, even with the American censorship, it's still really good. Although I do occasionally look up things where I suspect American censorship has gotten in there, and just seeing how much better the Japanese one was. But even the way, like, even after the Americans, instead of poo, it's Digi-Slime, and instead of being drunk, the Digimon has too much soda, and I'm like, yeah, we all know he's drunk. No one acts like that after having soda. Soda is a weird way to describe it, but hey, it's America. No, it's actually such a good series, and there's so much complexity, like, the kids have parental issues as well, and I'm just like, wow. And for 20-minute episodes, they pack so much in, but yeah, anyway, so that's what I've been watching, instead of, like, my, split personality themed stuff, so I haven't been prodding the bear, and that's probably helped. I don't know. Although I have had a few moments, even without triggering anything, I have had a few moments, and one that, like, messed up my sleep even more. But that was just, like, a one-off. Okay. So we haven't explained dissociation. I don't know if we'll get to that in therapy, because it's taking so long to deal with, like, the main distress in my life. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So, actually, I've got... I'm like, I want to take YouTube more seriously and film more videos, and that might be a struggle, I'm telling you, straight up for next month, because there's so much happening. Although, like the past week or so, it's been a struggle because, like, my brother's been home a lot, my little brother, which means his carers have been home a lot, and then this whole past week, Dad has been working from home, so I haven't had the place to myself to be able to film much. I'm filming this at night because that's the only time that I know no one's around. My other brother is off at he's away, so yeah, he's not gonna walk in, so it's the only time I can film. Like, maybe I just have to film at night, but it has to be when my brother's away, because otherwise he's walking around and then it gets too late, and then I need to go to bed. But anyway, getting distracted. So I'm going to be busy next month because I do have that creative open weekend. I'll post something in the community tab eventually. Shit, I was going to set that up today because I want to post on Instagram, but I need to take a photo of me instead of just the flyer. For those of you in Sydney, this is... well, have a look on my Facebook. Both my Facebooks, my personal and my Destroy Mariko Facebook. Oh, it's not focusing because... Can you see it? Yeah! Look, Destroy Mariko, there's me. So if you're in Sydney, I will be here. And I might not be there at 10 in the morning. I'm going to aim for 10, but I'm not a morning person, so I don't know if I'll get there. But I'm going to try and be there because, like, I'm curious about stuff, and, you know, if I really do want to try to get into the art world, I should really be part of those kinds of events. Yeah, and then also, that's the weekend before my birthday, so I've told people that that's the closest they're going to get to me having a birthday shindig. Did I post that publicly on my Facebook? I know I definitely did on the Destroy Mariko, but if you're looking at my personal one, because you can follow me, my public posts on my personal one, and, like, most of my personal posts are public now anyway. Yeah, it is there, okay. On my personal Facebook, most of the posts are public now because I've just given up on Facebook and their ridiculous censorship. Yeah, but so... that's going to be, like, essentially my birthday shindig so that I can avoid having a party and just do all my socializing over one weekend, and then I can spend the rest of the week or the rest of the month recovering from that. So yeah, if you're in Sydney and you want to say hi and see how, like, I'll probably be really awkward in real life, will try to have my social face on, but I don't know what to expect. So if I'm super awkward, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm like in the real world. Yeah, but you can meet me and the other artists, and you can buy my stuff. I'm going to, like, have some artwork on sale, and I'll have Rainbow Death Ray CDs and some of the leftover zines. Shit, I'm going in tomorrow to set up some stuff, and then the next week, and then it's already happening. Yeah, and that'll be, like, my birthday stand-in. Try not to be weird if you do turn up. There will be other people there. You're not going to find me alone or anything, so don't get too excited. And depending on how many people turn up, I may not be able to talk to everyone, like, as a one-on-one kind of thing. So yeah, try not to tax me too much socially if you do come. But that's the thing. Have a look on my Facebook. Either Facebook, doesn't matter. And I will post about it in the community tab eventually. And then... yeah, so then I've got my birthday. I'm working on my birthday, though, and Dad is, I think, out for dinner that night, so I don't really know if we're going to do anything. I was going to make a video about something to do with my birthday. I won't talk about that more now, because we're already at an hour. I knew this was going to take an hour. And then, yeah, also, Bonsai are having an exhibition. I'm not involved in the exhibition, because I'm not part of the Sydney Club, because I don't like being parts of clubs, even though, like, I'm in the... bonsai nursery and I'm getting good with my skills. I don't want to be part of the club, but because of that and also some other things going on at the nursery, some of the days that I'm working are going to be different, and I'm helping out on a few different things. So yeah, I'll be busy with a lot of stuff next month, so I'll try to be on YouTube because I want to do more of this stuff, and I want to set up my merch and get myself a shirt with my artwork. But we'll see. So if I have another absence, I'm sorry. I hope this 1 hour video will be enough to stand in. And yeah, so, oh my god, I'm doing so much stuff, and I'm just struggling to keep track of everything. I've redone my to-do list, and it's just like, I've already filled up the bloody post-it note. And some of those are videos that I've been wanting to do for a while. And then, like, yeah, like, oh, my poetry book I'm still working on. I need a proofread, and doing my art and my music and my YouTube, and it's just so hard to keep track of everything I do sometimes, but I can't stick to one thing. I get bored. I have to be doing all these different things just to keep it fresh, maybe, and I don't know, I just couldn't commit to any single thing. Anyway, so that's what's going on. 6 months after my schizoid diagnosis, I think it has freed me up to do more stuff, but doing the trauma stuff is horrible, basically, and I just hope it leads somewhere good and all this will be worth it. Yeah, anyway, so I hope this was an update that is good somehow. If I'm gonna be a serious YouTuber, I need to tell you to like, subscribe, comment, share, join my Patreon cult.
You can see my cult in the video description. Like, subscribe, and bear with me.